Commander Jake Morrison stood in the bright white room filled with computers and screens. The Luna Station Communications Center buzzed with activity as technicians worked on the strangest signal Earth had ever received. 3 months had passed since the first radio waves reached their satellites, and only now were they beginning to understand what the aliens were trying to say. The signal came from deep space, far beyond any star system humans had explored. Dr. Lisa Carter worked day and night with her team of language experts, feeding the alien sounds into powerful computers that tried to find patterns and meaning. She was tired but excited, because this was the first time anyone had received a message from another intelligent species. Jake watched the screens show wave patterns and strange symbols that meant nothing to him. Lisa walked over with a cup of coffee in her hands and dark circles under her eyes. She had been working for 18 hours straight, but her face showed pure excitement. "We got it," she said quietly. The translation program finally cracked their language structure. "Jake, you need to see this." She led him to a large screen where alien text appeared next to English words. The message was long and detailed, telling a story that made Jake's stomach feel sick. The aliens called themselves the Zentari Republic, and they were dying. The message explained that the Zentari were peaceful beings who lived on beautiful worlds with perfect weather and gentle animals. They had never fought wars or built weapons because they never needed to. For thousands of years, they lived in harmony with dozens of other peaceful species across their part of the galaxy. Then the Vaxxan Empire arrived. The aliens described the Vaxxan as void hunters who moved from star to star like a plague. They destroyed entire civilizations and took everything valuable, leaving only empty worlds behind. The Vaxxan Empire had already wiped out 23 peaceful species completely, and now they were coming for the Zentari. Jake read the translated message with growing anger. The Zentari described how Vaxxan ships appeared in their skies without warning. The aliens landed and began taking people away in huge metal boxes. Entire cities disappeared overnight. The Zentari had no weapons and no armies because they had never needed them. "Keep reading," Lisa said softly. The message contained detailed star maps showing the location of Zentari worlds and the path the Vaxxan fleet was taking. The aliens had included everything they knew about their attackers, including ship designs and weapon types. Most importantly, they included a desperate plea for help. "Any who receive this transmission, we beg of you, do not let the light of consciousness be extinguished from our worlds. We offer all we possess to any who would aid us. Our homeworld of Kepler 442b will fall within 6 standard time periods. If there are warriors among the stars, please hear our call." Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. These aliens had no idea their message had reached Earth, humanity's homeworld, where every single species had evolved to fight, hunt, and survive in conditions that would kill most other life forms. Earth was what scientists called a death world, a planet so dangerous that only the strongest and smartest creatures could live there. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her calculations. Based on their time measurements and the signal travel time, about 6 months before their main world falls. Maybe less. Jake immediately called President Nathan Hayes on the secure channel. Within an hour, every important military leader on Earth and in the colonies received an emergency briefing. Admiral Kelly Pierce arrived at Luna Station by fast transport, along with General Chris Baker and a dozen other senior officers. The war room filled with serious faces as Lisa presented the full translation. The alien message painted a clear Picture of systematic genocide happening across an entire sector of the galaxy. The Vaxan Empire had perfected the art of destroying civilizations, and they had never met serious resistance. Admiral Pierce studied the star charts with the cold eyes of someone who had fought in the Martian Rebellion and the Asteroid Belt Wars. These Vaxan ships are built for intimidation, not real combat. Look at their design. All show and no substance. They've never fought anyone who could fight back. General Baker nodded grimly. The Zentari describe weapons that are barely more advanced than what we had 50 years ago. These Vaxan have been bullying pacifists for so long, they've forgotten what real warfare looks like. President Hayes listened to all the reports before speaking. The moral issue is clear. We cannot stand by while an entire civilization is destroyed, but I need to know if we can actually help them. Admiral Pierce pulled up tactical displays showing Earth's current military strength. After decades of preparation for potential alien contact, humanity had built the most powerful space fleet in their history. 200 ships waited in orbit around Earth and Mars, equipped with weapons designed to fight unknown enemies among the stars. "We can field a fleet that will shock these Vaxan," Pierce said confidently. "Our weapons technology is based on centuries of warfare against each other. We've had to get good at killing because everything on our world wants to kill us. These aliens who destroy peaceful civilizations have no idea what they're about to face." The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. Humanity was about to make first contact with alien species, but not as explorers or diplomats. They were going to war. Jake looked at the star charts again and felt a familiar feeling from his combat days on Mars. It was the cold anger that came when someone hurt innocent people. The Zentari had done nothing wrong except trust that the universe was a safe place. The Vaxan Empire was about to learn that the universe also contained humans. "How fast can we deploy?" President Hayes asked. "Admiral." Pierce smiled grimly. "The Retribution and her fleet can be ready in 2 weeks. We've been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars." Dr. Carter spoke up quietly. "There's something else in the message. The Zentari describe themselves as garden world dwellers who have never known hardship. They literally cannot understand why anyone would choose violence. When they sent this message, they had no concept that warrior species might exist." Jake realized the aliens had sent their plea into the dark, hoping someone would hear and care, enough to help. They had no way of knowing their signal would reach a world where every animal was a predator, every plant was toxic, and every human child learned to fight before they could walk properly. The meeting continued for 6 hours as they planned humanity's first interstellar military campaign. When it ended, Jake stood alone in the communication center, looking at the alien message still glowing on the screens. The Zentari had asked if there were warriors among the stars. They were about to get their answer. 2 weeks after receiving the alien distress call, Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched the largest human fleet in history prepare for departure. The massive ship stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its dark hull bristling with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Around the flagship, 199 other vessels moved into formation like a pack of metal wolves. The fleet included everything humanity had built for war among the stars. Heavy carriers held squadrons of fighters designed for space combat. Stealth destroyers could move unseen through enemy territory. Massive supply ships carried enough ammunition and supplies to fight a war across multiple star systems. Most importantly, every ship was crewed by veterans who had learned warfare in the harshest conditions the solar system could provide. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez worked in the intelligence center deep inside the Retribution, studying every piece of information the Zentari had provided about their enemies. Her team had spent 2 weeks analyzing Vaxxon ship designs, weapon systems, and tactical patterns. What they found was both encouraging and disturbing. Their ships are built to intimidate, not to fight equals, she told Captain Walsh during the final briefing. Look at these weapon placements. They're designed for orbital bombardment of defenseless targets, not ship-to-ship combat. These aliens have been bullying pacifists for so long they've forgotten how to handle real resistance. Captain Walsh studied the holographic displays showing Vaxxon fleet formations. He had commanded ships during the brutal fighting around Jupiter's moons, where one mistake meant death in the cold vacuum of space. The alien formations looked sloppy and overconfident to his experienced eyes. They spread their ships too wide and leave gaps in their point defense coverage, he noted. They're not expecting anyone to shoot back effectively. General Chris Baker supervised the loading of ground forces onto the fleet's assault transports. His Marines were the best fighters humanity had ever produced, veterans of urban warfare on Mars and the underground battles in the asteroid mining colonies. Each soldier had trained in environments that would kill unprotected humans in minutes. The journey to Zentari space would take 4 months using humanity's experimental jump drive technology. The drives were dangerous and unpredictable, but they could move the fleet faster than any conventional propulsion system. During the long voyage, the crews prepared for battles they could barely imagine. Commander Rodriguez used the travel time to brief every ship captain on their enemies. The Vaxxon Empire controlled 12 star systems and had enslaved 43 different species over the past 1,000 years. They ruled through fear and overwhelming force, destroying any civilization that tried to resist. They've never faced an enemy with comparable technology, Rodriguez explained to the assembled captains via video link. Every species they've conquered has been peaceful and technologically inferior. We represent something they've never encountered. A warrior species with advanced weapons. The human ships moved through space in perfect formation, their crews drilling constantly for the battles ahead. Fighter pilots practiced attack runs against simulated Vaxxon vessels. Gunners tested their targeting systems on asteroids. Marines rehearsed boarding actions and planetary assault scenarios. Captain Walsh walked through his ship daily, talking to the crew and checking their readiness. The Retribution carried over 5,000 personnel, from combat veterans to medical staff to the engineers who kept the massive vessel running. Every person on board understood they were making history. Dr. Elena Martinez served as the fleet's diplomatic liaison, even though everyone expected more fighting than talking. She studied the Zentari language and culture, preparing for the day when humans would meet the aliens they were trying to save. The peaceful nature of the Zentari fascinated and worried her. They literally have no concept of military strategy, she told Captain Walsh. Their message describes disagreements that were solved by talking and competition that involved growing better crops. They've never had to fight for resources or territory. As the fleet traveled deeper into space, long-range sensors began detecting signs of the destruction ahead. Dead star systems showed no radio signals or signs of life. Debris fields marked the locations where entire civilizations had once thrived. The Vaxxon Empire left nothing but emptiness behind. Lieutenant Sophie Green piloted one of the fleet's advanced reconnaissance fighters, scouting ahead of the main force. Her ship was equipped with stealth systems and long-range sensors that could detect enemy vessels from vast distances. The data she gathered painted a grim picture of systematic Destruction. 17 star systems show signs of recent devastation, she reported to the fleet commanders. Whatever the Vaxon are doing, they're doing it fast and efficiently. Entire worlds have been stripped of resources and abandoned. The closer they got to Zentari space, the more evidence they found of the ongoing genocide. Refugee ships fled toward the outer rim of the galaxy, packed with survivors from destroyed worlds. Most were too damaged or too far away for the human fleet to intercept and help. Captain Peter Stone commanded the destroyer UES Vigilant, one of the fastest ships in the fleet. His vessel scouted the edges of Vaxan territory, gathering intelligence on enemy patrol patterns and defensive positions. What he found confirmed everyone's worst fears. They're not even trying to hide what they're doing, Stone reported. Vaxan ships move openly through occupied systems, broadcasting intimidation messages to anyone who might be listening. They want other species to know what happens to those who resist. As the fleet entered the outer edges of Zentari space, they received updated distress signals from the surviving alien worlds. The messages were desperate and growing weaker as more worlds fell to the Vaxon advance. The main Zentari homeworld was under siege, its population hiding in underground shelters while enemy ships bombarded the surface. Admiral Kelly Pierce, commanding the entire expeditionary force from her flagship, made the final decision on their battle plan. The human fleet would split into 3 groups. 1 to hit the Vaxan supply lines, 1 to liberate occupied worlds, and 1 to break the siege of the Zentari homeworld. We're going to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy, Pierce told her commanders. When we're done here, every species in known space will understand that the age of unopposed genocide has ended. The fleet moved into attack formation as they approached their first target, a mining colony where Vaxan forces were loading captured Zentari civilians onto slave transports. Captain Walsh felt the familiar calm that came before combat as his crew prepared for battle. The galaxy was about to meet humanity, and the universe would never be the same. The mining colony of Zentari 7 hung in space like a wounded animal as the human fleet approached. Captain Ryan Walsh watched the tactical displays on the Retribution's bridge and felt his anger grow cold and deadly. Vaxan ships surrounded the small world, their weapons pointed down at the surface where millions of innocent aliens waited for death or slavery. Through the bridge windows, Walsh could see the orbital bombardment platforms methodically destroying cities with precise energy beams. Each flash of light meant thousands of Zentari civilians were dying. Massive transport ships waited nearby, their cargo holds already loaded with captured aliens who would spend their remaining lives as slaves. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez provided the final intelligence briefing as the fleet moved into attack position. 18 Vaxan vessels in total. 12 are heavy transports with minimal weapons. 6 are warships providing escort. They're not expecting resistance. Captain Walsh studied the enemy formation with the experienced eyes of someone who had fought in 3 major space battles. The Vaxan ships spread themselves wide around the planet, confident that nothing could threaten them. Their escort vessels positioned themselves poorly, leaving gaps in their defensive coverage. All ships, this is Retribution Actual, Walsh broadcast to the fleet. We are looking at genocide in progress. These aliens are murdering civilians and taking prisoners for slavery. Rules of engagement are weapons-free on all Vaxan military targets. Protect the civilians at all costs. Admiral Kelly Pierce, commanding from her flagship Gibraltar, added her own message. Show them what happens when predators meet apex predators. All ships, attack. The battle began with a salvo of kinetic weapons fired from maximum range. Humanity's railgun technology accelerated metal projectiles to incredible speeds, turning simple iron slugs into planet-killing weapons. The first Vaxxon escort ship exploded in a brilliant flash as 3 kinetic rounds punched through its shields and hull. The alien response was immediate but confused. Vaxxon commanders broadcast angry demands to know who dared attack them, but their weapons could not target the human ships effectively. The aliens had built their vessels to intimidate defenseless populations, not to fight experienced warriors. Lieutenant Sophie Green piloted her stealth fighter through the chaos of battle, recording everything for later analysis. Her fighter was invisible to Vaxxon sensors, allowing her to observe enemy tactics up close. What she saw confirmed every human tactical assessment. Their point defense systems are garbage, she reported over the combat channel. They're designed to stop asteroids and debris, not incoming missiles. Our swarm weapons are getting through with 90% success rate. Captain Peter Stone commanded the destroyer Vigilant as it closed with a Vaxxon heavy cruiser. The alien ship was twice the size of his vessel, but Stone had learned warfare in the brutal asteroid belt conflicts, where smaller ships routinely destroyed larger ones through superior tactics and crew training. The Vigilant unleashed its full weapons load at point-blank range. Particle beams designed to cut through asteroid rock sliced through Vaxxon armor like it was made of paper. Missile swarms overwhelmed the alien ship's defenses, turning its hull into an expanding cloud of debris. Vaxxon Admiral Kethvar, commanding the attack fleet from his flagship Void Hunter, finally managed to establish communications with the unknown attackers. His message was broadcast on all frequencies in the standard galactic trade language, expecting immediate surrender from whoever was foolish enough to interfere. Unknown vessels, you have attacked the forces of the Vaxxon Empire. Surrender immediately, or we will execute all prisoners and reduce your homeworld to ash. You have 30 standard time units to comply. Captain Walsh's response shocked every alien listening. His voice was calm and cold as winter on Earth's polar ice caps. This is Captain Ryan Walsh of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. You have 30 seconds to release all prisoners and surrender your vessels. We do not negotiate with genocidal regimes. The confused silence that followed lasted exactly 15 seconds before Admiral Kethvar replied with obvious bewilderment. "What is a Terran?" Those were the last words the alien admiral ever spoke. The Retribution's main particle cannon, designed to destroy asteroids that threatened Earth's orbital colonies, fired once. The beam of focused energy vaporized the Vaxxon flagship instantly, leaving only glowing particles where a warship had been moments before. The battle turned into a massacre. Human weapons technology, developed through centuries of warfare against each other, proved devastatingly effective against ships built to terrorize rather than fight. Kinetic bombardment systems tore through Vaxxon shields. Swarm missile systems overwhelmed their point defenses. Electronic warfare packages disabled their command networks within minutes. Major Carl Johnson led Marine boarding parties onto the Vaxxon transport ships to free the captured Zentari civilians. His soldiers moved through the alien vessels like deadly shadows, using tactics learned in the underground cities of Mars and the zero-gravity battlefields of the outer colonies. The rescued Zentari stared at their liberators with a mixture of gratitude and amazement. The aliens had never seen beings who could fight with such precision and efficiency while still showing compassion for civilians. Human Marines carried wounded aliens to safety while simultaneously hunting down Vaxxon soldiers who refused to surrender. Dr. Elena Martinez, serving as the fleet's diplomatic liaison, made first contact with the freed Zentari civilians. The aliens were small and peaceful, with large eyes and gentle voices. They spoke in musical tones that their translation devices struggled to interpret properly. "Who are you?" asked one Zentari elder, her voice filled with wonder. "We have never seen warriors who show mercy to the innocent. We are humans," Martinez replied gently. "We come from a world called Earth. We received your message and came to help." The battle lasted 6 hours from first shot to final surrender. When it ended, 18 Vaxxan vessels had been destroyed or captured, and over 50,000 Zentari, civilians, had been freed from the transport ships. Not a single human vessel had been seriously damaged. Captain Walsh walked through the prisoner holding areas where captured Vaxxan soldiers waited under Marine guard. The aliens were larger than humans, but moved with the awkward confidence of bullies who had never faced real resistance. They kept demanding to speak with their superiors and threatening terrible revenge. Sergeant Nicole Thompson, a veteran of urban warfare on 3 different worlds, provided the tactical assessment that would define humanity's reputation throughout the galaxy. These aliens are good at terrorizing civilians, but they panic when faced with organized resistance. They expect overwhelming force to guarantee victory. When that fails, they have no backup plan. News of the battle spread faster than light could travel through the quantum communication networks that connected civilized space. For the first time in galactic history, someone had not only resisted the Vaxxan Empire, but had destroyed an entire fleet without taking significant losses. The galaxy had just met humanity, and the Vaxxan Empire was about to learn what happened when predators encountered apex predators from a death world where everything evolved to fight, survive, and protect the innocent. News of humanity's victory at Zentari 7 spread through the galaxy faster than the human fleet could travel. Captain Peter Stone commanded the destroyer UES Vigilant as part of a strike group that systematically dismantled Vaxxan supply lines across 3 star systems. His orders were simple but deadly. Find enemy logistics networks and destroy them completely. The Vaxxan Empire had ruled through fear for over 1,000 years, but they had never faced an enemy that understood modern warfare. Their supply ships moved in predictable patterns between slave worlds and processing centers, protected by minimal escorts that expected no resistance. Stone's tactical doctrine was surgical and merciless. Hit military targets hard and fast, protect all civilians, and give no quarter to forces that refused to surrender. Dr. Elena Martinez served as the fleet's diplomatic liaison, recording conversations, with dozens of liberated prisoners from 17 different species. The rescued aliens could not comprehend humanity's approach to warfare. They had lived their entire lives under Vaxxan rule, where violence meant random brutality against the helpless. "Your warriors show mercy to those who cannot fight," said Kethamol, an elderly Zentari who had survived 3 years of slavery in the Vaxxan mining facilities. "How can beings capable of such destruction also protect the innocent?" Martinez smiled gently as she helped the alien understand human concepts that seemed impossible to species who had never known true warfare. "We fight to protect peace, not to destroy it. Our weapons exist to defend those who cannot defend themselves." The industrial world of Karok Prime became the site of the largest ground battle of the Liberation Campaign. Vaxxan forces had turned the planet's massive factories into fortified positions, using enslaved populations as human shields to prevent orbital bombardment. The alien commanders expected this tactic to stop the human advance completely. Major Carl Johnson led the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Unit in a precision urban warfare campaign that the Vaxxan defenders were completely unprepared for. His soldiers had trained in the underground cities of Mars and the hostile environments of the outer colonies, learning to fight in conditions that would kill most other species. The Marines moved through the industrial complexes like deadly shadows, using tactics that had never been seen in galactic warfare. They cleared buildings room by room, evacuating civilians while systematically eliminating military targets. Vaxxon soldiers found themselves facing an enemy that could appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly. Sergeant Nicole Thompson led a squad that rescued over 200 enslaved Karathi from a weapons factory. The small reptilian aliens had been forced to build guns for their captors for over 5 years. When the human Marines appeared, the Karathi could barely believe their eyes. The metal warriors came from the shadows, one Karathi survivor later told Galactic News Networks. They moved like death itself, but their hands were gentle when they carried our wounded to safety. Thompson's combat report became required reading at military academies throughout human space. Enemy forces excel at terrorizing civilians, but cannot adapt to asymmetric warfare. They expect overwhelming force to guarantee victory. When faced with tactical flexibility and superior training, they panic and make critical mistakes. The liberation of Karok Prime took 18 days of continuous fighting. When it ended, the entire planet was free. Over 1 million slaves had been rescued, and the Vaxxon garrison had been completely destroyed. Human casualties were surprisingly light. 43 wounded and only 7 killed in action. The Vaxxon Empire's response was swift and desperate. Emperor Vashatok himself took command of their home fleet, assembling 800 vessels for a direct assault on Earth. The alien ruler had decided that humanity posed an existential threat to his empire and had to be eliminated at the source. Admiral Kelly Pierce received intelligence reports of the approaching Vaxxon armada with grim satisfaction. She had spent her entire career preparing Earth's defenses for exactly this scenario. The orbital fortifications around humanity's homeworld were the most advanced defensive systems ever built, designed by people who understood that their beautiful blue world was also the galaxy's most dangerous predator nest. "Let them come," Pierce told her staff during the final defensive briefing. "Earth has been preparing for this fight for decades. They want to see what a Deathworld can do when threatened. We'll give them a demonstration they'll never forget." Meanwhile, the liberation campaign continued across Vaxxon space. Commander Amy Rodriguez's intelligence network had identified 47 slave worlds and 17 major processing centers. Every location became a target for human strike, forces that appeared without warning and disappeared just as quickly. Captain Ryan Walsh divided the human fleet into smaller task forces that could hit multiple targets simultaneously. The Retribution led the assault on the heavily defended world of Nexus Prime, where the Vaxxon Empire conducted their most horrific experiments on captured civilians. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 3 days and became known as the Liberation of Hell. Vaxxon scientists had been torturing prisoners to study their biological weaknesses, creating weapons specifically designed to kill different alien species. The human Marines who stormed the research facilities found horrors that made even experienced soldiers physically sick. Lieutenant Sophie Green piloted her fighter through the orbital defenses around Nexus Prime, her stealth systems allowing her to observe the enemy response patterns. The Vaxxon defenders fought with desperate courage for the first time in the war, knowing that defeat meant the exposure of their most terrible crimes. "They're throwing everything they have at us," Green reported during the height of the battle. "Heavy plasma artillery, orbital bombardment platforms, even suicide attacks with civilian transports. They really don't want us to see what they've been doing down there." When the human forces finally broke through to the research centers, they found evidence of atrocities that shocked even hardened combat veterans. The Vaxan Empire had not simply enslaved other species, they had been conducting systematic torture and experimentation on an industrial scale. Dr. Martinez worked with the rescued prisoners, trying to provide medical care and psychological support to aliens who had endured years of deliberate torture. Many of the survivors could barely speak, their minds broken by experiences too horrible to describe. "We thought we understood evil," Martinez reported to Earth Command. "We were wrong. The Vaxan Empire represents something beyond simple conquest or slavery. They enjoy causing suffering for its own sake. The discovery of the research centers changed the nature of humanity's war against the Vaxan Empire. What had begun as a rescue mission to save the Zentari had become a crusade to eliminate a threat to all intelligent life in the galaxy. Emperor Vashatak's massive armada was 3 days away from Earth when Admiral Pierce activated the Sol Defense Network for the first time in human history. Every orbital platform, every automated weapons system, and every defensive installation that had waited decades for an enemy began powering up their weapons. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when someone threatened the homeworld of apex predators. Emperor Vashatak stood on the bridge of his massive flagship Eternal Dominion as 800 Vaxan vessels dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The alien ruler had ruled the galaxy's most feared empire for over 2 centuries, and no enemy had ever successfully resisted his forces. Today, he would eliminate the threat called humanity and restore proper order to the galaxy. The Emperor broadcast his ultimatum across all frequencies, expecting immediate surrender. From the primitives who dared challenge his authority, "Creatures of the Third World, you have interfered with the natural order of the galaxy. Surrender the species called human for immediate execution, or watch your pathetic world burn to ash." The response came not from Earth's government, but from Admiral Kelly Pierce aboard the orbital fortress Gibraltar station. Her voice carried the cold authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. "This is Admiral Kelly Pierce of the Sol Defense Fleet. You have entered Terran space with hostile intent. Turn around now or be destroyed." Emperor Vashatak laughed at the response, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through his ship's bridge. 800 vessels represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. No single world could possibly resist such overwhelming power. "Begin the attack," he commanded. "Show these primitives what happens to those who defy the Vaxan Empire." What followed became known throughout the galaxy as the Massacre of Sul, though the massacre was entirely one-sided in humanity's favor. Earth's defensive network, built through centuries of human ingenuity and paranoia, revealed itself in all its terrifying glory. Thousands of automated weapons platforms had waited, hidden throughout the solar system, disguised as asteroids or space debris. Orbital defense stations that had seemed like simple research facilities suddenly bristled with weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. The space around Earth transformed into a killing field designed by apex predators who had learned warfare against each other for millennia. Captain Danny Wright commanded the defense cruiser UES Guardian as wave after wave of Vaxan ships entered the trap. His crew had trained for this battle their entire careers, running simulations and drills until every response became automatic. They watched with professional satisfaction as the alien armada flew directly into humanity's web. Multiple targets. "Entering firing range," reported his weapons officer. "Automated systems are acquiring locks on over 300 vessels." "Fire at will," Wright commanded. Show them what a Deathworld builds when it expects company. The first salvo from Earth's defenses vaporized 60 Vaxxon ships instantly. Massive kinetic weapons accelerated asteroids to incredible speeds, turning chunks of rock into planet-killing projectiles. Particle beam arrays designed to clear dangerous debris from Earth's orbit focused their power on enemy vessels, cutting through alien armor like it was made of tissue paper. Emperor Vasha watched, in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons he could not even see. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds disappeared in flashes of light. His commanders screamed contradictory reports as their formations dissolved under the relentless assault. "How many defensive platforms do they have?" he demanded. "Unknown. My Emperor," replied his tactical officer, fear obvious in his voice. "Our sensors detect new weapon signatures appearing constantly. It's as if their entire solar system is one massive fortress." Captain Sandra Bell led the Special Forces team that boarded the Emperor's flagship when it was crippled by a kinetic strike that destroyed its main engines. Her soldiers moved through the alien vessel like death itself, using tactics perfected in boarding actions throughout the solar system. The Vaxxon crew had never faced an enemy that could appear inside their own ship. Human technology allowed Bell's team to cut through the hull at any point, appearing wherever they chose to strike. The aliens had no counter-tactics for this kind of warfare. Bell found Emperor Vashtok on his bridge, surrounded by dead bodyguards and sparking control panels. The alien ruler was massive compared to humans, standing over 3 meters tall with armored skin and claws designed for intimidation. But intimidation meant nothing to soldiers who had grown up on a world where everything was designed to kill. "What manner of devils are you?" the Emperor asked as human soldiers surrounded him, their weapons trained on his vital organs. Captain Bell's response became legendary among the liberated species of the galaxy. "We're humans. We're from Earth, and we don't like bullies." The Emperor died 30 seconds later when he tried to activate a suicide device that would have destroyed his ship and everyone on it. Bell's sidearm, a simple projectile weapon based on technology that was ancient by human standards, punched through the alien's armored skull and ended the Vaxxon Empire's reign of terror forever. With their emperor dead and their fleet destroyed, the Vaxxon Empire collapsed within months. Slave worlds rose in rebellion as news of humanity's victory spread. Species that had cowered in fear for centuries suddenly found the courage to fight back against their oppressors. Dr. Elena Martinez worked with representatives from 43 liberated species to establish the Galactic Liberation Alliance. The rescued aliens had formed the galaxy's first truly democratic government, with humanity as founding members and protectors. "We have fundamentally altered galactic civilization," Martinez reported to Earth's government. "For the first time in recorded history, aggressive expansion has been met with organized resistance. The age of galactic empires built on terror has ended." In the aftermath of the war, humanity established the Terran Protection Doctrine. Any species engaging in genocide, slavery, or aggressive expansion would face the full military might of Earth and her allies. The galaxy's first Deathworld had become its protector, and the universe was demonstrably safer for it. The Zentari Republic's final transmission to Earth was broadcast throughout known space, carrying a message that every species could understand. "Thank you for teaching us that darkness cannot stand against the light, especially when that light burns with the fire of a Deathworld's children." 5 years after first contact, Earth had become the unofficial capital of free space. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia now stood together under humanity's protection. The former slaves had become allies, the oppressed had found their voice, and the galaxy's predators had learned to fear the apex predators that emerged from the third planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Humanity had answered an alien, SOS call, and in doing so had changed the fate of the galaxy forever. The age of unopposed tyranny was over, and the age of protected peace had begun.